All right, and I believe we are now live. Currently running my new Via Locomotive with the LRC cars. Also got a mixed freight ready to go here. We'll get that moving right now. Hopefully some people will join in soon enough. Southeastern Rail fan, welcome. Carter Games, hello. And a whole bunch of people joining in right now. And some of you might have seen over the weekend, if you remember, I did some track work right here. In the previous live stream, I was having a lot of issues with trains derailing in certain sections, and I chalked that all down to the basement being heated right now. Transit fan, thank you for joining the channel. So anyways, yeah, I did some repairs on this corner right here and on that main stretch of track over there, which was a pretty major culprit. So yeah, so far things have been performing a lot better. It's going to be interesting to see how the main line performs, because it was also worked on in the summer, which is I think what led to this, but yeah, we'll see. I got a quick question. Well, fire away. Hey SMT, I'm your biggest fan. Thank you. I really love the train from Unstoppable. Yeah, I like it too. Pretty cool locomotive. I believe it's an AC 4400. I think they were Canadian Pacific locomotives, which they dressed up. If I'm not mistaken, one of the plows is actually still painted with AWVR colors. I find it funny though, because Canadian Pacific's new Kansas City Southern Canadian Pacific paint scheme looks very similar to it. Makes you kind of wonder if they got some inspiration from there or not. I don't know. Transit fan, thank you so much for the super chat. Hi SMT, how are you? Pretty good. How are you? Dundas Junction. I did a stop at Larkspur last week. Oh, did you get anything while you were there, James? I know I did a video of that place yesterday. That was actually filmed, I think it was probably around April the 10th or so, but yeah, I want to make another trip going to Larkspur line. You should do a special video for Halloween. A lot of people have been requesting that. I'm kind of thinking about, I don't know if I'd make a full video, but I was thinking about maybe doing a Halloween-themed short featuring a haunted house, some older equipment, maybe a fog machine or something. I'm just trying to find a good fog machine for the layout. I'm not really sure what I want to go with. There are some good portable units, but they're like $150. I don't know if I want to dump that kind of money into just one gag. I don't know. How's the Digitrax decoder been? You should put one in the Hiawatha. The Digitrax decoder in the Tyco locomotive has been working pretty well. The Hiawatha actually used to have a decoder, but I ended up removing it just to kind of make it more original, make it more as to what it would have been back when it rolled off the assembly line in the late 40s, early 50s. But it was DCC at one point. If you look at the channel's main page, it's a video of the Hiawatha, and in that video it's running on a club layout, and that club layout only operates on DCC, so I had to throw a decoder into it just so that you know, it was basically compliant with the layout. But yeah, that's probably the oldest locomotive I've ever installed a DCC on, and it does show that even on a locomotive that's like 70 years old, you theoretically can install DCC. What if you got an O scale 44, 49? Uh-oh. Cut power to the layout and the AWVR somehow switch tracks. Yeah, I'm open to that. I really like the daylight. I've got quite a few of the HO ones. It would be pretty cool to see one operating down there. I can't expand the O scale layout too much simply because it takes up so much space, but there are a few distinct locomotives I wouldn't mind having in O scale. And what DCC should I use in my Bowser 210-0? Well, I don't I don't know what kind of era that locomotive would be. If it's one of the older ones, I would definitely pick a 2-amp decoder because those draw a lot of current. But I don't have a specific model in mind. I'm not really that, knowledgeable on DCC, to be honest, either. So the only thing I can say about it is just make sure it's a high amperage decoder, because if it is an older engine, it's not going to be efficient, and you don't want it frying a low amperage decoder. Greetings from Michigan. I also challenge you to build a whole 3D printed locomotive. Well, we'll see. I've been learning how to use the 3D printer. It is a very cool tool. I think to start off, I just want to try to print some gears, but yeah, that would be pretty cool if I could actually start making some engines. There's been this prototype engine I've been working on for years now. It does work, it just needs a lot of refinement. I'm gonna have to replace that switch over there. And Norman Corey suggests using a Soundtrax 2-amp decoder. Hey, SMT, glad to see another live stream. I hope you're well. I have a request. Can you double head 2 big boy locomotives if you can? If you can't, just run 1 big boy. I can't double head 2 because in the last live stream we discovered that one of the big boy engines wasn't running at all. I don't know what happened to it, but I can definitely run the original one for you. That shouldn't be an issue. Do you have a 210-2? If so, can you run it? Yeah, we could definitely make that happen. I wonder if the 210-2 could handle the curves on this layout. What grass do you use for turf? I'll see if I can find it for you. Just hold on a minute here. Yeah, so the turf I use on my layout is... It's just called blended turf. This is my favorite one. It's sort of a lighter blend. A lot of people use a mixture, but I find this looks pretty good. And then usually I have a few darker blends for more forced scenes and things like that. But I find a light blend combined with like a really dark paint looks good. Anyways, I'll see if I can find the big boy, which I think is over in the yard, and I'll try to find a 210-2 while I'm at it as well. Shouldn't be too hard. Can you put the brass O-scale on the layout? I don't know if I should. I feel like I don't know. I don't want to have anything break. I think the Unstoppable has derailed. I guess it is stoppable. Just barely tall enough to be able to reach across the layout. Anyways, here, double head the big boy with the 210-2. Okay. I'll have to try to find the 210-2 with the correct coupler in that case, but I'll see what I can do. SMT, do you watch Trailer Park Boys? I love the Trailer Park Boys. Been watching that show for years. For anybody that hasn't seen it, there are a couple episodes which are kind of centered around model trains. Now, just be forewarned, the Trailer Park Boys has a lot of really crude humor, a lot of swearing and stuff. So if you don't find that kind of stuff funny, don't watch it. But if you're open to that kind of stuff, it's a hilarious episode. I love it. Trying to figure out where I put the 210-2s at. I think they might be in the main rack, but I'm not sure. What's your opinion on pancake drives? They're okay. definitely not the highest quality, especially the power torques are not very reliable. The Bachmann and lifelike ones are okay, the Lima ones are okay, but a standard drive will outperform one any day. SMT, does the brass O-scale locomotive run on your O-scale layout? It can't do so because the O-scale layout uses 3-rail AC track, so the two outside rails are connected to each other electrically. So if you try to put a DC locomotive where one wheel is positive and the other wheel is negative, it won't run on this kind of track. You can ironically run an HO locomotive on this type of track because even though it's AC track, the middle rail and the two outside rails are electrically isolated. But yeah, it's funny. It's an O-scale engine that can't run on regular O-scale track. I don't really get why O-scale stuck with AC power while HO primarily went to DC, but it is kind of funny. Holy frig, Mr. Leahy, as a reference to Randy Bo Bandy. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do to start this off here is we'll get the 210-2 operating around here and then try to figure out the rest of it. Greetings from England. Can you wire a DC power to the two outside rails? I don't think you can because I believe the two outside rails on every piece of track are connected to one another. Maybe I'm wrong about that. At least with the old tubular track, both the outside rails are permanently connected. So you'd have to isolate the outside rails somehow. Just gonna shut the sound off, having to speak over this engine. How much is too much for a locomotive? Well, that is a great question. It really depends on the kind of engine. I mean, a high quality locomotive, like a brand new Scale Trains release, you know, those can be into the $300, $400 range. But you would never want to pay that kind of money for like an old Athearn or something like that. So it really is, there's no kind of standard answer. It really is kind of subjective. Now, I don't know if a 210-2 can handle the inside curves because parts of this is 15R, which is pretty tight, but we'll try it. That's not a good start. Bachmann Easy Mate couplers are the bane of my existence. Years ago, I thought they were good. I installed them on a bunch of things, and having to undo those poor choices, it's probably going to take the rest of my life. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see, sometimes you get two couplers. Yeah, I think it's the engine which is the problem, but let's try it again. Maybe it will hold on this time. Okay, well, that's a good start. Can you double head the Daylight with the Freedom Train? I've been watching for a few years from Missouri. I think it would be cool. I don't have two Daylights running at similar enough speeds to do that, unfortunately, because only one of them is DCC. So the 210-2 apparently can handle all the curves on the inside track, but the coupler is so messed up, I don't think that is gonna work. So, I don't know, maybe I should try running the big boy on the inside track. That'd be exciting. Do you have any Austrain models? I sure do. Or I think so. I don't know. I've got some Australian Cision locomotives, but I thought I had a couple of Australian products as well. This is going to be a real test for the big boy. Can it handle 15 radius curves? SMT needs to make a custom Trailer Park Boys Swayze Express. I've been wanting to do that for a long time. The only challenge with the Swayze Express, if you've seen the show, is that that engine has so many, I think, custom pieces of paintwork. Trying to copy that accurately would be really, really hard. But yeah, I'd love to do that. I think it's a great model. Good day, SMT, watching from South Australia. Great channel for easy watching. Thank you. I've been trying to find out what happened to the Swayze Express after they filmed season 7. I've always wondered that too. It has to be in somebody's collection out there, that, or I don't know if they have a film set storage facility, but someone's got to know. I'm guessing that was somebody's personal model. Like, I'm guessing when they filmed that episode, they asked somebody who is in the hobby to provide a locomotive, and that's what they came up with. It's definitely custom. I don't think that any company ever made those. Now that coupler's not working. Oh man. Is it bad to run a faster locomotive behind a slower one on a double header? Well, the faster engine's gonna be strained, yeah. Usually what I do is I put the faster engine on the front just so that it's pulling, and then the engine that's slower is also kind of putting its share in, if that makes sense. If you do it the other way around, the faster engine's just going to be slipping while the other one's doing all the work. I have it set up that way actually on my Wakefield train, but that's just because the diesel engine on that uses Athearn parts. So even if it wears down the parts or does damage, I can just replace the parts. The steam engine's so expensive, it's not really worth it to do that, but generally you want to avoid that. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe we'll bring some different cars off the freight yard onto the main line. Have this pull a freight train, I don't know. The only photos I found of the Swayze Express online that weren't part of the show were 2 behind-the-scenes photos I found when I was trying to figure out where it is and now. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know. I wonder if the guy in that episode, the singer Sebastian Bach, would actually know. That would be funny. Do you have a 210-0 decapod? If so, can you run it? I think the closest thing I have to a decapod is the 210-2. I don't know if I have a 210-0 or not. SMT, when will the industrial siding get a revamp? Likely as we head into winter. I'm not sure. There's no specific date in mind, but it's definitely something I want to take care of. It's needed an overhaul for a long time now, so I would like to do it. The main priority, I think, heading into winter, though, is going to be getting that layout over there done, because that's going to a friend of mine's son, and I think it would make like such a cool Christmas gift for him to be able to give this to his son. So my goal is to get it done by early December, because let's be honest, with how things usually go with a lot of my projects, it's probably going to run behind a little bit. So if I aim for December 1st and get it done on the 15th, I'll call that a success, just as long as I get it done before Christmas. Can you run the Virginian from eBay unboxing a couple months ago? Yeah, sure. I'll try to run the big boy one more time, because that was not a very satisfactory result, but after that we can definitely try to run this thing. So that's a pretty cool locomotive. What's your favorite brand? I don't have one favorite brand. Some of my favorites are Kato, Athearn. Let's put Atlas on there. Walters Trainline, I really like those. Yeah, there's not really a bad brand. I'm not the biggest fan of Bachmann, just because I feel like the quality is not very good for what you pay for them, but even they have improved a lot since what they were like making in the 80s. Walters is super good. I love their rolling stock. Yeah, Walters is just an overall good brand. I don't find that they're like really groundbreaking. Like I've never bought a Walters product and been like, this has the best detail. But in terms of just making like affordable, consistent locomotives, they're pretty good. And they're like train line engines, you know, they're fairly affordable. And for what you get, you get metal couplers and all-wheel drive, all-wheel contact, flywheels, a 5-pole skew-wound motor. Like, it's pretty darn good for the money, in my opinion. All manufacturers have improved since the 80s because rich people are buying these products at inflated prices. Manufacturers have to step up their game. Yeah, the market definitely did change. It changed, in my opinion, like kind of 3 times. I mean, if you look back to like what the hobby was like in the 30s and 40s, people were mostly like making kits. And then it went from that into the 50s, where like Ready to Roll was starting to come out, and then the quality really started to bump up, and you had companies like Varney and Bowser all coming into the market, and they were all trying to, they were making kits, but they were also making really nice Ready to Roll engines. And then kind of around the end of the 60s, early 70s, the hobby pivoted away from being precise, and it was more targeted towards like families and stuff. And then, that's where the Lifelikes, the Tychos, the Bachmanns all kind of sprung up and had their heyday in the 80s. And then at some point in the 90s, the hobby started to flip back towards making precise models again. And all the manufacturers started to improve, like I think it was in 1989, Proto 2000 was invented, which is basically a high-end Lifelike. Bachmann came out with their Spectrum brand, which is basically a higher-end Bachmann. Tycho kind of went out of business, but Mantua continued to evolve, so they were kind of still around in a way. This thing is running a lot better on this side of the layout. Are you in a model railroad club? Technically so. Technically I'm in one. I was gonna say I'm technically part of 2. I've been part of 2. I haven't been to either of them in quite a long time now. Time is really just of the essence these days. But they can be a lot of fun. I wish more locomotives came as kits, agreed. It would be really interesting if some company came out with a modern kit, like instead of parts that you have to solder together, It'd be nice if they had a kit that was almost the equivalent to like an Athearn Blue Box, where everything kind of just snaps together. I feel like that kind of thing would be a lot more appealing to the modern consumer, because I just don't think a lot of people really want to sit down for several days, you know, with the soldering fumes and melting all these pieces of metal together. I mean, if any of you watch that guy Darth Santa Fe, like, properly building a kit is a very tedious process. Can you run the red Rattler? Yeah, sure. I'll just get some other engine on the main line so we can haul these cars around. I think I'll try hauling them around with the 210-2, and then we'll see what else we can do here. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I kind of feel like there might be another era of kits in a way, because 3D printing is starting to become such a big part of the hobby. I wouldn't be surprised if there are these homebrew brands which just start popping up where people sell these kits. You know, they 3D print all the parts, and then all the other parts they can't print, like the motors and the contacts and stuff, they just order from China or something like that and sell these affordable kits. There might be a renaissance for them. I don't know. Hey, SMT, something I think that you would really like would be going to the Cappisburg, Ontario Train Museum. I don't remember what it's actually called, but it's a cool thing. They also had a small scale layout. I'd have to look that place up. I don't know if I've heard of that myself, but yeah, there are a few museums in Ontario I'd love to check out. I already went to the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario. That place was pretty good. Been to Expo Rail, that is in Montreal. That was pretty nice. But yeah, there are many more I'd love to see. Do you like DC or DCC better? Personally, I prefer DC. It's affordable. It's really straightforward. There's not a lot to go wrong. You don't have to program your engines. You're not going to have problems with your decoder. You just put your engine on the track, and provided the contacts are clean enough, it will just go, which I just love. I don't hate DCC though. I think it does have a place in the hobby. Like, for the train club I am part of, I would probably hate DC if they operated it, because the only way to run multiple trains on a layout with DC is to have electrical blocks, which is a pretty complicated process, especially the club layout with multiple people running trains. So for situations where you're going to be running a lot of trains, like in a group or something, DCC is my controller of choice. But yeah, just when I'm running trains alone here, like 9 times out of 10, I'm using this controller, not that one. How many coaches do you think you have? Probably about 40 or 50 in total. Are old Tyco trains usually not that good? I would say so, yeah. The Mantua Tycos, which are metal and have 5-pole motors, those are pretty good. They're not the greatest in terms of performance, but they are reliable. But the power torque drives, which were just regular Tycos, those were not reliable. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate Tyco as a brand. I understand that there's a lot of nostalgia in it, and you know, a lot of people grew up with the Golden Eagle and the Silver Streak and stuff like that. They're really cool locomotives, but just from a reliability standpoint, they're probably some of the worst out there. Anyways, I think I'll try running maybe an Australian locomotive on the inside loop. If there was something else I was supposed to run, I'll have to remember what that was. But in the meantime, we'll get something, just so we have 2 trains operating. Yes, the Virginian, that's what I was supposed to run. Have you ever been to the southeastern USA? Not really. I've been to Florida, and I've been to California. So I've been on both sides of the country, but I haven't seen a lot of the center. SMT, what do you think about the new Bachmann BL2? Because I think it's cool that there's a new BL2. I haven't seen any pictures of them, but given that Bachmann has been improving the looks of their engines, I'm sure it's decent. Do you think you'll make a Christmas train? Probably so. I'd really like to host another Christmas display contest and charity fundraiser again this year. I feel like the last few have been quite successful. I believe Broadway Limited is coming out with a BL2. I wouldn't touch anything from Bachmann. It's overpriced for what it is. What do you think about the new Bachmann 440? I personally think they're cool. I can't say. I've got the older 0440 from Bachmann. I don't really like it. It's not a reliable engine. It runs like junk even after I clean the wheels on it. But maybe they've improved it. I don't know how they would have done that, if they've installed Keep Alives in it or something, but they've got a long way to go with getting me on their side for that. Do you recommend anything for a new model railroader? What I would suggest for anybody getting into the hobby would be to make a list of everything you want and just base it off that. You know, if you really care about the historical side of model railroading, or you want to build a specific area, fill your boots with that. But there's a lot of people who just want to run some trains, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, at the end of the day, the railroad belongs to you, so run it as such, and don't let people online dictate how you build and run it. Mr. Leahy hates Bachmann. Most of my locomotives have wheel slip when I only have 5 cars on it. What do you think could be the problem? If it's an older engine that has traction tires, replace the traction tires. I'm almost certain that that would be the cause. I mean, some engines just don't have very high pulling capacity, but what can happen is sometimes an engine can shed a traction tire where it comes off, or in other cases, the traction tire will dry rot and it will just kind of spin around the wheel. So it won't provide any traction. In fact, it will be kind of like counter traction. So investigate that, and I think you'll find the source of your problem pretty quick. Do you have any New York Central equipment? I've got a few NYC pieces, including a Richard Dreyfuss Hudson. SMT, I need a bit of advice. I was cleaning my Rivarossi 040, and when I put it back together, it started running noticeably louder. Any idea what it is? Check to make sure that the motor is secure, and yeah, just tighten down all your screws. Throw some thick oil in the gears. Yeah, if it's running louder than it did before, there's probably just something that's loose. Do you have any Thomas models? No Thomas models on the layout, no. I loved the show. I watched it all the time as a kid. Not a huge fan of trains with faces. That's not judgment towards anybody who does, but I personally just, I don't know, don't really want it on my layout. I was a little bit surprised the other day, though, because I was looking through an old family photo album. When I was really young, before I had the model trains, I had the wooden trains. I think every kid out there has had those at some point in their life. But I was looking through this photo album, and I had one of the Thomas sets with the plastic blue track. I think they're the Tomy train sets. I don't ever remember having that as a kid, so... But it was here at my house, so I don't know whatever happened to that, but I was quite surprised. It's like a whole train set that has just disappeared. SMT, did you see the new meme on Instagram of the Acela crash? I can't say I have. Is that a real Acela crash, or is that the one that happened here on the channel a few years ago? Fire up the Canadian National GS4. Okay, we'll try to run. I'll also get the Virginian. It's yours. Uh-oh. Let's see what kind of mockery they're making of me this time. Do you play Trains Railroad Simulator? I used to. I really liked the original, like one of the older Trains 2010. But truth be told, I just don't play video games that much anymore. Put DCC in both my Thomases and put a couple LEDs in them. I added the KD and a bit of lead for a AA. Says they're still not powerful. Hey, SMT, I have a question. Where did you get your Proto Throttle? Can you do a video setting it up? I got the Proto Throttle from Otter Valley, which is a Canadian distributor. I think Proto Throttle is based in the United States, though. It might even be an American-made product, if I'm not mistaken. So there should, if you look online, you should be able to find one pretty easily. As we're setting it up, it was very easy. It connected on its own, which was quite remarkable. The only thing you have to have is you have to have the module for the Proto Throttle to connect to, and then that module has to connect to yet another module to connect to your controller if you're using Digitrax. So luckily I already had the Wi-Fi module, so I didn't have to go through that. But as for that part, that might not be obvious to everybody out there, so just keep that in mind. I wonder if the GS4 would run on the inside track. I don't even know if this bucket of bolts is going to fire up, but let's try it. That's very confusing. Yeah, think of it like a square. You've got the Proto Throttle that goes to the transponder. The transponder connects to the Wi-Fi module. The Wi-Fi module connects to the Digitrax controller. He hates cabooses. I don't hate cabooses. Just Googled Iowa scale trains engines to find SMT. Yeah, exactly. They're not rare. They have a variety of different colors as well, which is pretty cool. I picked the black one. I thought that it looked pretty slick, but they had like some red ones, some green ones, and some stores even have their own colors. So for Otter Valley, they actually had their own run of them, which was kind of neat. Okay, so the Junkie Bachmann gonna start. Yeah. Well, it's running like crap, but it's doing it. I don't suppose... Uh-oh. I can't tell if the locomotive has... No, it can't be stalled. I think it's just gone quiet. To go give it a little prod. I don't suppose you have a 4.4 American-type steam engine you could possibly put in the queue. Yeah, I've got one of those. I was talking about that engine earlier, actually. This engine's so bad. I wonder if I'm putting too much strain on the motor. Am I about to burn up the coils on it? It sounds so dreadful. I think I should probably try to find something else to run, because it'd be nice not to destroy this locomotive. Go little Bachman. Yeah. I think this thing is starting to run a little bit better. The RPMs are slightly higher. I mean, it's sparking, but yeah, that's fine. Look at her go now. Oh, it's just loving it. More throttle. Yeah, let's pump up the volts. Well, I don't know why it started running better in the last half. Let's see here. It doesn't smell like the motor's burning up. Cool. Little Bachman that could. Yeah, I was about to make a joke about it being the little Bachman that couldn't, because it looked like it was about to burn up, but I don't know, maybe the heat from the motor got the oils flowing better or something. A lot of the older engines, I don't know, they sometimes need to warm up a little bit. The Old Bay Rail fan, another collection video when? That's a great question. I don't know. I do want to do one. It's just going to be pretty monolithic, because the channel has grown the channel's grown since then. I was going to say the collection has grown a lot since then, so it will not be a small video, that's for sure. Run your crappiest locomotive and highlight why it's so crappy. Okay. Before I do that, though, I'll throw the Virginian on, because I've been saying I'm going to run that for a long time now, so let's do on my promises, get it on the track. I think it will look great hauling these cars around. You answered my... Oh, I saw a request for a CSX engine in the chat. I think I just hadn't read it or something. How did Nerf Cat get his name? Nerf Cat got his name when I was walking through Target years ago. I don't know, 2018 or so, and they had this whole lineup of dog toys called Nerf Dog. And I thought it'd be hilarious if they came out with a line for cats, like Nerf Cat. And I don't know, something just stuck with me. So yeah, I just started being like, hey, Nerf Cat, what's up? And then in one of my videos, I don't know why, it was like a live stream or something. I was just like, hey, what's up, Nerf Cat? And that seemed to resonate with a lot of people. Everybody just started calling him that. So that's what happened. right, there we go. Last time I was running this thing, it was giving me some issues with the coupler, so I'm just going to keep an eye on it. Oh! Not a good start. I was going to say, just going to keep an eye on it, make sure it actually stays on the track, but... yeah, I don't know why I just split the switch. Let's try it again. What's the most expensive locomotive you have? That would either be my Chinese 210-2 or the Northern. I don't know. Possibly the Hiawatha, but I don't know. It's a little harder to gauge the price on. Hey, SMT, I found a great deal at my local hobby store, a New York Central and Union Pacific Proto 2000 E8 for $65 each in new condition. I gotta pick that box up. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Okay, well, let's go see. We're gonna go dig for some junky engines, see if we can find something nice. Do you have a GG1? Got these ones right here. Can we see Nerf Cat? Let me check in a moment. I don't know if he's inside or not. Okay, so I've got a couple contenders for the crappiest engines in my collection. The first one is this British Columbia locomotive, and somebody just beat the snot out of this thing. I mean, you know, it's missing a lot of parts. I don't know who gave the owner a Dremel tool, but they shouldn't have had it. So they just cut everything off of it. Only has one coupler. The back pocket's broken off. It's not in good shape. Not a good engine. It does run. I like it, but it's no good. I actually have two of these ones. These were made by Play Art, and the shell is so crappy it hardly holds onto the body. The flanges are something to behold, but on the powered model, the wheels were made so badly, they're uneven, so as they rotate around, they actually kind of like hammer the track. Both really bad engines. I want to see if I can find the powered version of that model. I think it might be over on this shelf somewhere. I thought I saw it around here at some point. There it is. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. I'll let the CSX gain some distance on it. I'm going to try to run this thing around. See if I can capture the sounds of just destroying the track it runs on. You hear that kind of clunk, 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 clunk sound? It's not a cracked gear. I've gone through it several times trying to fix it. That really is the wheels. So there you have it, and yeah, I don't know if, like, well, it's actually doing a pretty good job hanging on right now, but I remember as a kid picking this thing up several times, and then the body would just pop right out of it, and the drive would drop out. But yeah, it's interesting to say the least. Does track wear out over time? Not really. I find sometimes pieces of track get damaged over the years. You know, maybe you drop something on the track or the heat warps it or something. The only spots where I've actually seen locomotives actually like do physical wear to the track just from years of regular use is the plastic frogs on the switches. And this is too small for this camera to pick up, but with these plastic frogs, basically what happens is every time wheels go over this, they kind of like tap the rerailer, and what happens over time is this starts to wear down, and then once this gets worn down enough, stuff will just start derailing every time it goes over it. So this was a phenomenon I discovered probably about 5 years ago. You know, just stuff kept derailing at every switch, and I was like, you know, these switches have worked great for years. What gives? And then I went over them very carefully with a flashlight, and I just noticed a little bit of wear. These switches don't have as many like years of continuous use on them, which is why they're still holding up. But even they're already starting to show those signs of wear, so it's only a matter of time before I have to replace those as well. I've been replacing them with the metal ones. We'll see if those wear down the same way, but I have more confidence that I'm not going to have that issue with them. When Nerf Cat gets onto your layout, how does he not break/damage anything? He's pretty careful. I wouldn't say he doesn't break anything though. Like a lot of figures and trees and stuff get knocked over. So there is cleaning up if he gets on the layout, but generally he just walks on the track and stuff like that and doesn't really make a difference. The only time he kind of caused some catastrophe was I remember years ago when I was younger, he'd got on the layout and he decided to stick his head in the tunnel, and then he lifted it up and the tunnel flipped over and landed on all the trees and everything. That was a pretty big mess. I've been building up an N-scale collection recently, focusing on the 70s and 80s northwestern Pennsylvania. So some Norfolk Southern equipment and a lot of Conrail on the line. I need to get some things patched out. Well, that sounds like an exciting project. Sorry, I just got distracted. I don't know why that just stopped. That's really weird. Track status says there's power in the line, so why did it just shut down? Meh. SMT, I had some used switches that I sanded and added some baking soda and crazy glue used a Dremel to reshape it. It actually worked. Well, maybe I'll try that with these ones because switches are not cheap, and it would be nice to reuse these because these are a couple of the few pieces of track which are still original to the layout. So these were put in here back in 2007, whereas almost the entire main line by this point has been replaced with new track. So I would like to hang on to them just for that sort of sake. What do you think is the best DC controller? In my opinion, it's the MRC Tech 3 9500 series. That's the controller that I use. I just love it because it's got the gauges on it. So you can see what's going on in the track. You can see how the locomotive's performing. It puts out, I think, 2 or 3 amps, which is pretty high. So you could run a lot of equipment at the same time without things slowing down. But yeah, I've yet to see a DC controller better than that one. If anybody has any suggestions for a comparable controller to that, I'd love to check it out. But so far, that's the best DC controller I've ever seen. I remember when you kept the Canadian Pacific AC-44 where that CN engine is. Oh yeah, that was a long time ago. You need to add some trees on that layout. It's looking very bare. I like it. I think the only spot where I do need to add some stuff is this area right here, but that's where the mall is going to go, so it's sort of just a placeholder. SMT, when will the industrial siding get revamped? Well, as I was saying earlier, I don't have a specific date in mind, but it is something that I'm looking to do. I don't know. Sometime in the winter, it's probably going to be next year, just with how things are going. But hopefully it'll happen sooner. But I have already started preparations for it, so you can see right here. We've got this area cleared for it. I got the switch and the track ready to go. Just need to dig into this, tear out the old yard that's in here, and then put in the new stuff. And I'll have 2 working freight yards, which is going to be awesome. How many different model train brands do you run in your layout? I would like to know if you could run Athearn locomotives on Bachmann rails. Absolutely. I don't know how many different brands I have, but the number... it's probably at least 30 different brands, but one of the great things about model railroading is that just about everything is compatible. So you can run a junky 80s Tyco locomotive on the same track you run a high-end 1950s locomotive on the same track you run a modern day, you know, $400 engine. They all work together. So the only real thing you have to look out for is there's different sizes of tracks. So you've got like code 83, code 100. I think there's code 70 something. I don't know if it's 72 or something, but there are some smaller ones. Sometimes the older equipment doesn't work on the smaller gauges of rail just because the flanges are too big. But if you're using code 100, you can operate anything on it, which is really, really cool. It's one of the greatest parts of this hobby. I don't know how many other hobbies where you have a bunch of different things from a bunch of different brands that all just work together. Like even in this scene right here, let's see. We're using Pico track combined with Atlas track. This is a, what's the brand of that? I don't remember. It's some German brand. This is a Rivarossi from Italy. That's an IHC Mahano. That's from Yugoslavia. Here's a Braua locomotive. That's German. This is another Rivarossi. That's supposed to be an Italian engine. Here we got a Walters engine, which has a Canadian livery. We got a Bachmann right here, an old Tyco right there. They all work together. If any real locomotive, scrap or not, if you could have any real locomotive, scrap or not, what would it be? Well, personally, I'd love to have the Wakefield train because, you know, that thing is very nostalgic and I'd love to see it operate again. But in terms of stuff that has been scrapped, it would have to be the Hiawatha. I think it's such a shame that none of the A4s were saved, and I think it would be great if somebody was willing to build one again. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but you can dream. Oh, looks like we got a super chat here. Francisco, how much do you think your entire collection is worth? I have no clue. I'd imagine it's a pretty good number at this point, but you got a lot of different things purchased at different times over many years. Things have gone up in value. Some things have depreciated. Some stuff has increased because I fixed it, and other things have gone down because I got them when I was a kid and damaged them. So I have no exact figures. What is the diesel by the Wakefield train? Well, this diesel works with the Wakefield train, unless you're talking about that. That's something I found at Larkspur years ago. It was a kit bash product that somebody had put together. It's worth whatever somebody wants to pay. Yeah, that's the thing too. Yeah, you can have something which on paper is worth $3,000, but if you can't find a buyer, is it really worth that? Does the tram on the layout run, just out of curiosity? Yeah, I think so. Let's see if it will start. This was something I built a few years ago, actually. What happened to the HCW train after it shut down? Okay, so after the Wakefield train shut down, it was basically just left at its storage facility in Gatineau. And there was a bunch of attempts to restart the railway. They tried to do some crowdfunding to get it back online. Those were not terribly successful. Apparently in 2016, the train ran for the very last time. They were doing a trial run to Montebello. So basically, instead of running the line up to Wakefield, which was washed out, they were just going to run the train backwards down a freight line, which was still active. But nothing ever came of that. I don't know. I guess they just couldn't get investors behind it. And so, unfortunately, in 2018, they started scrapping the cars, and then by 2019, they were all gone. But the two locomotives are still in Gatineau, and they're still in their shed. They're still protected from the elements, luckily, but they're completely landlocked. And I'm not really sure if either of them would start at this point or not. Mike, thank you so much for the super chat. SMT, great video. Your title says 187 scale. Does that mean all HO trains are 187th scale? Yeah, I think all HO stuff is 187th scale. Sometimes you have other scales. I think that the Rivarossi locomotives, like this one right here, are actually slightly larger than 187th scale. Like, I think they may be 176 scale, but yeah, I'm pretty sure HO is supposed to stand for 187th. You can't really put a price on anything that you collect that brings you happiness. Yeah, and that's a terrific point as well there, Corey. Like, you know, I've got my very first lifelike locomotive. I don't think I could convince somebody to pay $5 if I needed to sell it. But if somebody offered me $1,000 for it, I wouldn't take it just because it's got too much sentimental value. So, you know, that is true, you know, which is the whole point. You buy something. I mean, if you're buying something, you're deciding that whatever the item is worth more than the money that's in your pocket, which is quite a question. So yeah, I got an old Tyco engine that doesn't work. How do I make it run? Because I don't know how to even help it run on my layout. I've done a lot of videos taking apart the old Tycos, cleaning them up and running them. So I just watch one of those because power torques are basically all the same. So if you watch a video on how to fix one Tyco, you pretty much know how to fix them all. But yeah, bottom line, just disassemble it, clean the wheels, clean the contacts, throw some fresh oil in it, and I can almost guarantee it will be running like a song after a while. HO stands for half of O. That's what I've heard too. I don't know what O scale itself stands for, but yeah. Double O scale is slightly larger, but can run on HO track. Yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing, is that most stuff from England is double O scale, or double O gauge, as some people claim. But I've never had any problems running double O gauge or double O scale equipment on my layout. What's your opinion on the Bachmann-Thomas line? I'm sure they're fine. I don't think they'd be more or less of a, you know, quality engine than any other Bachmann. O scale was originally meant to be called 0 scale, which stands for standard scale, and it was misread as O. Maybe it was misread. I could also see a situation where people were just calling it O scale. I mean, it kind of sounds better than 0 scale. It's sort of like the same reason that people call 007 007 and not 0007. That'd be a good name for a parody of James Bond. He, like, tries to introduce himself to some lady acting all slick, and he's like, "Hi, I'm 0007." She's like, no. Is it bad to clean track with an eraser? I don't think so. The only thing, I can think of that you should never clean your track with ever is steel wool. Never put that stuff anywhere near your layout or near your engines. It will bugger them up faster than anything. Do you have any Proto 2000 steam locomotives? How's the SMT Berkshire? I don't know if I have any Proto steam engines. As for the SMT Berkshire, though, last time I was running it, it was doing as well as it ever has. SMT, would you ever buy a N-scale Japanese train? Yeah, I don't see why not. SMT, do the lights in your buildings work for nighttime operation? It'd be so cool to see with lighted passenger cars. Okay, so months ago, the lighting system was not working, and then I got it working again, and I also got the lighting system on the industrial side of the layout working as well, and everything looked really good, but something crossed my mind, which is that I've got a lot of really old bulbs on it, and I had no clue how much current they were pulling, so I disconnected the wires from it, from that controller which powers the lights, to my spare Tech 3, and I discovered that altogether the lights are pulling 1.4 amps. So the lighting system does work, but it's putting way too much strain on that controller, and I don't want to like burn it out. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way either to divide up the load of the power or something like that. I don't really know how I want to fix that. So yeah, I know this is a roundabout question. It does work. I just need to figure out how to find a supply that's high enough amperage. SMT, if Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys wanted to come to your basement and run trains, would you let him? Absolutely, that'd be a great time. Can you run the white and green locomotive sitting on your layout? The white and green engine. Oh, the Wakefield train. Yeah, we could definitely run that. Yeah, I'll also throw the trolley on. I said I was going to run that earlier and I got distracted. I'll let the CSX go by here. I'll run the Red Rattler first. Get a Bachmann amp booster. Maybe. The only thing is I run my lights off DC power. I don't run them on AC because most AC systems run 18 volts, which destroys bulbs. I like to run them really like on low power. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Okay, well, I guess it's wired backwards or something. I don't know. It's not loving it. Okay. Whatever happened to the SD Mac? I still have it. As for this old behemoth, we'll see if it will start. Oh no, this one's wired backwards too. Oh, that's no good. Does the Virginian Electric have a bell sound? I think it does. I'll see if I can play it for you. It's probably one of the quietest sound-equipped locomotives I think I've ever seen. Let me try to get this going here. Okay, I think I got it to start. Yeah, I'm clicking the bell icon. I'm not hearing anything for it, so maybe it doesn't have one. I don't know. I don't know why it's also going through the whole startup procedure again, but yeah, I mean, you can't really complain when the DCC feature is like free. Some tea, I love the channel. Could you please run a Berkshire, and can you get the Lionel Polar Express during Christmas? Thank you so much. Yeah, sure. I think it has an ESU. I wouldn't know, maybe. Old Bay Rail fan, thank you so much for the super chat. If you want, oh, it's just blowing its own horn. If you want to remove paint off a locomotive a little bit better, you should try to use 91% isopropyl alcohol. It will take the paint off overnight. You just have to scrub it a bit with a toothbrush after. Well, thank you for the tip. I'll have to try that because I bought an old Bachmann GS4, and I hope to turn that into a custom BNSF locomotive. I think that's going to be a cool project. The engine's already ruined though. Somebody did a horrible paint job, so maybe I'll try that to get the old paint off it, and hopefully it will strip it off well enough that I can do my special custom paint scheme. As for the Berkshire here, I'm going to run the SMT mainline one. I don't know if Norman Corey's still in here, but he was the one who actually made and sent this engine in, so pretty cool engine. What's the story with the Hiawatha sitting there? The Hiawatha was an engine that my grandmother got as a child back in the late 1940s, early 1950s, sometime around then. And it was in the family for a very long time. Unfortunately, it actually got lost for a great many number of years. And then in the 80s, she went to Australia to, basically sort out her father's estate. And she found this locomotive with a bunch of others. And unfortunately, during the time in storage, it had succumbed to zinc pest, which is basically the metal had impurities and degraded. Anyways, about 20 years later, I was born, and a few years after that, I got into model railroading, and she gifted me all of her childhood trains and said, if you can find somebody to fix these things, I'd love to see them run again, so on and so forth. Took them to like a million mechanics. Nobody could fix it. And they said, you can't get parts for them and stuff. It's just never going to work. So, anyways, I decided to try to take it on myself, and that's actually how the channel was started. So I'll leave it on the layout as sort of just a nod to that. There's a video earlier this year where I actually did like a full restoration on it and put a whole bunch of different parts into it. So remarkably, despite its age, they still make parts for those old Rivarossis. There's some guy based out of Italy who manufactures them, which is really cool. I'm ever grateful for that. I don't know if I'd ever have been able to fix them up if it weren't for him. Can't remember if this is programmed a 3 or not. Maybe it's 1221. Let's see if I want to respond to that. Well, let's try running it off DC power. Maybe that will work. It's 3. Oh, okay. I'll try that then. I don't remember reprogramming it. Something's going on here. I probably pulled out the plug. Bingo. How do you feel about buying trains on Amazon? I don't feel like Amazon is really that great for buying model trains. It's a good service, you know. I know they're like an evil company, but in terms of like providing good service, I do like them a lot. I just don't find in terms of model railroading they have a very good selection. You know, a lot of their stuff is overpriced, or it's just generic stuff like Bachmann. Like, you know, you struggle to find anything really but Bachmann on there. They have a few Walters things, but yeah, not a lot of dealers seem to use Amazon. This thing is not having it. Let me try this again. I'll try to start this one more time. If it doesn't, I think I'll just put it on the repair bench. Yeah, nothing. That is really weird. Oh well. Any chance do you have a flying? I have a Flying Scotsman, and unfortunately, it doesn't run. Someone who used to work for Amazon warehouse, do not buy any model trains from Amazon. I cannot tell you how many destroyed locomotives, rolling stock, and others sit in their warehouse to be sold. Funny you say that, because years ago, I was on Amazon warehouse, which, you know, as they're talking about, is basically where things are sold as liquidation. They're supposed to be returned. And I found this engine on there. I think it was $100 or something like that, which for a DCC and sound daylight is really good. But they claimed that it was undamaged. They claimed it was in the original box. They made all these claims that this was basically just a mint engine that somebody didn't want. I got it, and it was missing the roof to the cab. It was missing 1 or 2 different wheels on the tender. The wiring was all buggered up. I feel like there were a couple other things, but it was a very damaged engine. So I filed a complaint, and they basically offered for me to send it back again or to get a partial refund. So I picked the partial refund, which made this like a $70 engine, which is just a you know, parts engine basically. But yeah. Oh, that was the other thing. They claimed it came with the original box, and it did not. It came in an Amazon box, and it was just loose in there. They threw it in a box with like 2 pieces of bubble wrap just loose in there. Like the engine wasn't wrapped or anything. It was really, really like just clumsy work. So yeah, I'm not entirely surprised to hear that. Okay, trying to remember. I definitely had some requests. I know somebody wanted the Wakefield train to be run. Unfortunately, that will not couple up to these cars, so I can run it separately, but not hauling anything. But I feel like there was another request in there. Run your cursed locomotive. It's so close to Halloween. Yeah, well, let's see if that will start. Do you own any New York's? Yeah, the 4.4. Yeah, that's right, the American. I'll have to find that. Cursed engine. Memories. I guess it doesn't have a coupler, so I'm not gonna be hauling much cargo with that, but try to run it independently anyway. And yeah, I'll also try to find the American engine. There. When I was working at Amazon, it was a very sad sight to see. I've seen them toss heavy car parts from on top of model trains. I've seen guitars get smashed. I once got in trouble for damaging those out. Seems like weird to me, you know. I guess because companies can like write stuff off. For them, it's not really a concern if, you know, they resell things. I don't know the case, but I'm just surprised they would be that rough with stuff that, you know, that they could potentially like make some money off of again. So far is running a lot better than it did last time. Speaking of Amazon, when I got back from Japan, I ordered a Japanese commuter train, and it took me 2 orders on Amazon and 2 on eBay. It still has not arrived yet. Hopefully I'll get it soon. That's brutal. I don't know. Last time, this is one of the few times where, you know, I actually made off well because of a situation, but it was around Christmas, and I ordered, I think, 2 engines, 2 train sets. No, I ordered 2 different locomotives and 1 train set for a family friend's son to add onto that layout I was building. And they didn't arrive on time, so I started to panic, and I filed a complaint, and, you know, they sent a couple more items, which I got right away. But then, like, an entire month later, the 2 original engines, which I had ordered, and the original train set arrived. So I contacted Amazon. I'm like, you know, should I ship this back or what? And because I was worried I was going to get charged twice for it if they discovered it was delivered, and they just said I could keep it. So that was one of the few times where, you know, I had a problem with shipping and actually got something for it. Have you seen any big boy locomotives in real life? I saw the one in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Never saw 4014, or I haven't yet, but even seeing one on static display was very impressive. What were they? Well, they were the 2 engines. One was a Canadian Pacific, one was like a Conrail engine, both Walters Trainline GP15s. The train set, I think, was a Coastliner train set from Bachmann. Hey dude, awesome to see you. I'm just getting into model railroading. Your channel's helped a lot. I volunteer at a local railway museum, helping to run the only working Prairie steam tram in the world. Oh, that's really cool. Hey SMT, I'm thinking of creating an online map based on what you like on Roblox. I don't want it to be public. I won't post it on any server. What do you think the map would be like? Well, I don't know if you're the one who did this, but somebody on Steam created a model of this layout in 3D. I think it was called SMT's Basement or something. I feel like SMT's layout would have been a better name, but yeah, I was sort of surprised to see that. If I wanted to get a big boy as a display piece, what would be a good brand to go for? Probably Revell, because Revell used to make static big boy models in kit form. Sometimes you can buy them already assembled from people, but they're a lot cheaper than like a Rivarossi because they're a kit. You know, a lot of people want working engines. So if you just don't want something to look at, you can usually find those for like 50 bucks. Hello and greetings from Yonkers, New York. Yonkers, New York. Just think of Lost in Yonkers. I think in a second here, I'll take the CSX engine off the main line. I'll try to put those cars maybe right here if they'll fit. And then, yeah, we'll try to run the cursed engine. I'll try to run the Wakefield train. We'll see how that goes. Hey, SMT, what do you think about Atlas buildings? Their kits, I know your station's one. They're fine. I mean, a lot of the Atlas kits are, you know, it's pretty old tooling. It's what they've been making for, you know, probably 30, 40, maybe even 50 years. But there's nothing wrong with them. I always loved building all the kits. Remember around Christmas, you know, I'd usually get a few and me and my dad would sit down and slowly put them together. Something would inevitably go wrong. We'd miss a piece of flashing or throw something out. I don't know, something like that. And it was always a great time. It's just reminding me of a story. I'm going to recount it in a moment here. Let me just get some of the other trains running here. It was a story about building that exact station. I was just reminded of that. Yeah, it started. That's cool. I wonder if this thing is going to stay on the track and actually do some laps. Okay, so it was probably about like maybe 2007 or I think it was 2008. Yeah, it was Christmas 2008. And I had gotten this kit right here, and if you've ever built one of these, I don't know where mine is right now, but there's this little cart. It has 3 wheels on it. It's a little green cart. I might have it on the other station. But either way, we were building this kit, and we'd built the whole station. Everything went very well until we got to building that little cart, and that's when we noticed that we only had 3 out of 4 wheels. So we looked everywhere to find this this wheel, and then whenever we'd build this stuff, we'd always build it on newspapers just so that, you know, the glue wouldn't go on the table, so on and so forth. And we'd thrown those papers in the garbage, and it had been several days because we had built the model over a series of days, and So people had thrown all kinds of food and everything in there, and we concluded that that wheel had to be in there. So my parents laid out a tarp on the floor, and they start emptying out the, like the garbage everywhere. It's like a huge mess. Me and my sister just find this like hysterical. So they like start digging through looking for this wheel. They don't think that's very funny. So they said, okay, you think it's so funny, why don't you go dig through the garbage? So we had put in gloves, and me and my sister, even though it was like horrible looking for this wheel, we just thought this was still like so damn funny. And then after a certain amount of point, we just gave up. But I'm pretty sure that kit only comes with the 3 wheels. So basically we emptied out the contents of the garbage all over the floor for absolutely nothing. Yeah, it was an epic day. Harrison, when you look over the Berkshire, check the wheels and the contacts on the tender. They get dirty often. Okay, I'll keep that in mind because, you know, in some of these live streams, that engine has clocked quite a few hours, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the contacts just need a bit of a cleaning, because that it seemed pretty secure, the PCB connector. Do you have a 3D printer? Have you thought about 3D printing anything on your layout? I have a 3D printer. I haven't used it a whole lot yet. I'm still kind of getting to learn how to use it properly, but yeah, it's a good unit. I'll show you something I printed. It's not my design, but yeah, so this was a 3D printed shell. It actually tried to print the handrails, which I thought was quite impressive. I was also able to print some side frames for a project. I can't remember what engine that was, but there was something I had to print side frames for, so I used it for that as well. Do you remember the Via Rail crash you made? That was funny. Well, I mean, that had sincerely happened during a live stream, but yeah, I kind of made a skit out of the footage from the stream. I don't think it's online anymore, but yeah. What shell is that supposed to fit? I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. Have you ever wanted to throw a locomotive across the room, and why? Oh, that's happened many times. Yeah, when I was trying to rebuild the RS3, I'll see if I can find it. When I was trying to build the RS3, I just kept working on this thing, and I just kept running into problems. I kept working on it, running into problems. This happened over and over and over and over again. And it was starting to become kind of frustrating because I felt like I was just dumping time from. And at one point, I had to step away, take some deep breaths, and just ignore it. Say, you know, time, this will pay off. And it did, but yeah, that's not the first time that's happened. You know, when you're working with something, it's just being finicky. You know, you solder a wire on and it snaps off, or you just keep redoing stuff. What do they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, trying to expect something different. When that kind of stuff starts happening, it gets frustrating, and it's good to step away. But that's what I always try to do. It's like, if you're thinking about throwing an engine across the room, it probably means you shouldn't be working on it anymore. Yes, MT, I'm working on the same engine you put in vinegar, the PRRRS, and when I first fixed it, it worked, but then I noticed that the coupler was sagging. Do you have any ideas on how to fix that? You could try adding some shims, like some little thin pieces of cardboard maybe, or you could take that off and add a KD coupler box. That would probably be the best option. Do you have a PRRT1? I do, yeah. I don't know if it would run, but we could try to start that later. Do you think you'll get more 00 engines in the future? I feel like that's probably going to end up happening. I was browsing eBay Italy the other day, and I found a lot of foreign engines. It's a mixture of British and American stuff. Anyway, I'm bidding on that right now. The joke might be on me, though, because I placed a bid, and then I realized a lot of the engines kind of look like they might have been Airfix kits. The guy says they don't, like they're in non-working order and need to be repaired. I don't know if he doesn't know that they might be dummy engines, but I hope I'm wrong about that, because if I end up winning the auction, I might end up getting stuck with a whole bunch of kits that I don't want. But the main reason I want this lot is because there's a Hudson in it, which is really rare. And it was actually one my grandmother had in her original collection, and the only thing I have left of it is the box. So, you know, if I win the lot, at least I'll get that out of it and try to fix it up maybe. But it uses, everybody's told me this engine has a 2-pole motor. I've never seen that before. It's a 2-pole engine. I have no idea how that works, but yeah. If I win the auction, we'll find out what it looks like. Have you ever heard of a brand called Trix? Oh yeah, I know all about Trix. Some of my old grandmother's trains were made by Trix. Let's see if I can dig them out here. This is my well, this is the rest of my grandmother's collection. There's a bunch of other junk in here right now, but here's her old Trix Scotsman. Here's her, I guess this would be I don't know, a 4.4 or an 0440. I don't know what this would be classified as, but it's another British-made Trix engine. There's one more in here. This thing is in horrible condition. But yeah. I bought a Trix engine in a lot a few months ago, and a lot of people told me somebody had converted it from AC to DC, and given the quality of the work, I had a hard time believing that they pulled something like that off. But I opened it up about a month ago, and lo and behold, they actually did it. So I don't know if the guy who decorated it was different than the one who did the mechanics, or if the guy who did the mechanics was just a lot more knowledgeable in the mechanics than they were in the decorating. But it has all the parts there, and it's so similar to my grandmother's engine. What I'm starting to think I should do is I should move over the parts, and I could actually get her Trix engines operating on here. What brand made the Hudson? It's by Graham Farish. A lot of people are saying the stream is crashing. I don't know if that's true. The battery on my phone might be running low, so if I randomly cut out, you'll know why. Let me see. I don't know why the bronze engine just shut off. Hopefully it didn't burn up. It did look like it was getting a little bit sluggish there. Stream is okay here. That's good. I mean, it feels warm. It doesn't feel like super warm. That doesn't smell like anything. I don't know what's going on. So I'll try to run something else here. What was that other engine I was supposed to run? Wakefield train, that's it. Stream is fine, it just did a couple seconds of buffering. Okay, well, it might just be internet issues. I'm gonna try to get better internet down here, because Right now, the internet I have is like 10 megabit on the upload, which is not really ideal for live streaming. So, it'd be nice to get some fiber optic internet. It could actually get the speed up to, I don't know, 1,000 megabits on the upload. And these streams would look glossier than ever. Maybe that's the wrong switch. I don't know. Yeah, I forgot these will only run together when they're on DCC. I hope you win the auction. I don't see many British manufacturers making American locomotives in HO scale too. That's a good point. It's a good point. The only thing I don't like about if, you know, I end up in that lot is I'm going to be basically paying for a bunch of engines, which, you know, if they were all just project engines with motors and everything, I'd be all for it. I'd be like, oh, heck yeah, you know, I can fix these all up. But never been a very big fan of static models. So, yes, fiber internet would be great. We have it here, 1 gig up, 1 gig down. Yeah, that sounds pretty deluxe. I tried to get fiber optic internet with the current provider, but you know, bad on me for not reading through the conditions well enough. The internet was called, like, I don't know, but it had fibe in the name, like premium fibe or something like that. What they meant by that is like it was their fastest internet, but when you put the word fibe in your internet, you know, deal, it sounds like it's fiber optic. That's what you would think fibe would stand for, but no, I was wrong. It's regular cable internet, but it's the fastest one they have. But honestly, I haven't really noticed much of a difference ever since we upgraded the speed. So, you know, I think I want to contact a provider that actually has real fiber optic internet and not have these problems anymore. Yeah, there we go. As I was saying earlier too, the diesel engine's working harder in this case. It's pushing the steam engine forward most of the time. Uh-oh. It's been a while since I've run this. Is that a V90? No, the diesel's a T43 and the steam engine's a E2. It looks very similar to some of the German engines. This was actually an American locomotive, though. I think GE, when they were making these, I think this is actually like an SD9 or something in disguise. They resold an American engine with the same power plant, same traction motors. It was internally it's an identical engine to an American locomotive, but they repackaged it for the Swedish market. So cosmetically, it looks more German than it does Swedish, but internally, it's basically the same as a lot of North American engines. Sort of a funny story. It's one of those cases where you have an engine which was designed and developed in North America, then they built it out in Sweden, made it a Swedish engine, and then 50 years up the road import it to Canada, back to North America to be used on a North American railway. It's just one of those sort of full circle things. You should dress up Nerf Cat as a Nerf dart for Halloween. That would be funny. I don't think Nerf Cat would let me dress him up. I think if I tried to dress up Nerf Cat, I'd get clawed. That's what I should dress him up as, Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. He doesn't even have to dress up. He's already just got his fur. Looks like we got another super chat here from the Old Bay Rail fan. Thank you so much. I'm trying to fix an American Flyer 060. The motor works fine. And the wheels turn well, but when I put the two together, it doesn't work. It seems like the motor is struggling. What do you think? Let me think about this. It'll be Mad Cat. Yeah, exactly. So you got a motor. I mean, the motor could just be low on power. Like what I would do is, just because a motor can do a decent RPM doesn't mean it's putting out much torque. So try just testing it with your fingers. Like just, pinch the worm gear a little bit there and to see if it's got some torque. So that'd be the first thing I'd check. I'd make sure that the gears, the mating surfaces of both the gear and the worm gear are both good, because there could be a problem there too. Another problem I did run into in an American Flyer engine was one of the coils was bad, and since it's a 5-pole motor, it would still start and run, but you'd have to prod it. So if you're having situations where the engine will run fine once it's moving, but it won't start, it probably means one of the coils has gone bad. Nerf Cat looks like my friend's cat named Cloud. Well, it's funny. I was thinking about it the other day. It's like most cats are born in a litter, somewhere between 2 and 6. So in all likelihood, Nerf Cat probably has some brothers or sisters out there, which is kind of funny that there could be some very similar Nerf Cats maybe still around. Who knows? Just gonna get a wire here in case my phone happens to be running low on power here. What's the best place to buy traction tires for locomotives? eBay is a pretty obvious go-to. Sometimes dental elastics will actually work though, so your local pharmacy might actually have traction tires. Just gonna see if I can find my Milwaukee battery pack. I don't know where that went off to. Just hold on a moment, everyone. Well, I think that's charging. Why does your cat like acting like Godzilla? Probably because he likes being the center of the universe. Whenever I'm working down here or something, he loves attention. He loves the scratches and everything like that. So it really bothers him if I'm like working on something here or I'm working on the layout. So that's why he jumps up on the layout. I think it's like, hey, pay attention to me, not this. He also just likes exploring stuff. Like he'll kind of just hang out with me while I'm working on things. He'll just kind of wander around down here and do things. And DB Tech says lovetrainhobbies.com has a good selection of traction tires. Well, thank you for sharing that, David. I wasn't aware of that resource. How's it going? Please run to New York Central or Conrail. Sure, we can make that happen. Now, last time this engine was overheating. I'm going to be curious to see with a bit of a lighter train if that happens again. Oh, there's already power on the track. Have you done a DCC install on an 040 Camelback Yard Goat? Can't say I have. Nap time for the Dreyfus, yeah. Yeah, it's had a long day at the mill. Speaking of Nerf Cat, where is he? I don't know. Let me run upstairs. I'll see if I can find him and get him down here. Here he is, everyone's favorite cat. He's all sleepy because I just pulled him from staying by the warm fire there, but here he is. What do you think, Nerf Cat? Is there anything you want to say to all the viewers? Yeah, he's kind of pissed. You see how he's like turning his head away? Cat. I don't think I've ever seen a cat that like scratches this much. Like he really likes it when you like kind of like lean into the scratches. Such a sucker for the ears. Give Nerf Cat a snack. I don't know if I have any treats down here or not. He's happy now. Give Nerf Cat a pet for you. All right. My cat Minion is the same way as Nerf Cat. He loves clawing all this stuff up too. Our grass mat's good for first layouts. Yeah. See a Russian blue. Yeah. Might post it on the community tab. I found some really old pictures from Christmas of 2009, which wasn't too long after we had got him. And yeah, pictures of what Nerf Cat looked like as a youngster. I just rejoined the stream. This is an amazing sight. I have a Maine Coon that loves the tip of my finger in his ear. For some strange reason, Nerf is absolutely beautiful. Yes, he's a very handsome cat. How old is Nerf Cat? At least 16, if not 17 or 18 years old. So he's no youngin'. We recently got him some special. Well, we're giving him these shots. They're called Silencia, and they're supposed to help him with his joints. And then we also got him a painkiller because he has pretty bad arthritis in his back. But that has helped a lot. He's been a lot more energetic. He's definitely feeling a lot better, which is really what's important, you know. Railroading and kitties. Yeah, see, Bubbles from the Trailer Park Boys would love it down here. Let's see, these are still running well. Nerf Cat's a senior, yeah. SMD, do you have any Conrails? Thanks for running the New York Central. Can you tell me about the Acela Amtrak engine? Well, I mean, I don't really have much to say about it. I do have some Conrail engines. If anybody wants me to, I can definitely run the Acela. Maybe I'll throw that on. These two engines have been running for quite a long time. What do you think, Nerf Cat? You want to see the Acela run? Eh? I'll take that as a yes. I love how mean his face looks. It's great. Yeah, you're a handsome boy. You're a handsome boy, not to be messed with. It's a Bachmann. Yeah, that's true. You see how he's just following me around down here? Hey? He looks very angry. Want the chair? You want this chair, Cat? Am I wrong for saying I like Bachmann a little bit? No. I mean, the bottom line is the hobby's about having fun. So if you like Bachmann engines, don't feel any shame in that. My only problem is just what they're charging for their quality. But I mean, I'd be one to talk about liking junky brands. Like one of my favorite brands out there is Lifelike, which I think a lot of people would argue is probably the worst brand out there. So yeah, no shame. Oh, looks like SMT, if you run the Acela, please don't show us any irresponsible speed. Yeah, of course. That's a callback for anybody who doesn't know to a live stream I did about 5 years ago where drove this thing really fast and flew it off the layout and it smashed into like a million pieces. Apparently that's a meme now. I have yet to see that. But yeah, you missed a super chat from Old Bay. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can find that. My cat will jump on my layout and steal my screws now. I have to hide them. He'll jump up on the layout and steal my screws. I have to hide them. Huh. And Nerf Cat doesn't usually steal parts. The one thing he does do, though, is he'll get up on the layout and he'll start gnawing on the trees. I don't know if he really wants to try to, like, eat the trees or if he's just trying to get a bit of a rise out of me, like if he knows that bugs me, so if he does it because of that, but yeah, it's the only kind of bad thing he does when he gets on the layout. Last March when I was building, well, not last March, 2 Marches ago when I was building the layout for the family friend there too, I wasn't filming when this happened, but Nerf Cat got on this layout and he actually jumped from this layout to that layout. And at the time I was laying out the glue and he stepped in it and he put a bunch of paw prints and I had to clean off his paw with some water. I mean, it was like school glue luckily, but if you look between frames at one point in that video, like between two scenes when I wasn't recording, you can see some paw prints on the layout, like cat glue paw prints. So yeah, he can be a troublemaker when he wants to be. This is just so wrong running these really old cars with this Acela. It's like some dystopian alternate universe where we're stuck with rolling stock from the 1930s, but locomotive technology evolved. So we have high-speed trains hauling old cars. That's what world this comes from. Nerfzilla and the glue prints. What's with the switches on the side of the track? Well, I don't know if you're talking about these switches or if you're talking about the abandoned line, but basically I just had some space between the track and the buildings. I didn't know what to put there because it's kind of an awkward piece of space, and so I just decided to put down some little bits of scrap track I had like laying around, and yeah, just made it like an abandoned scene. So like what I like to imagine is years ago, before the town was built, there was some kind of industry here that was being serviced by like a spur line, and then as the town grew up, the line became abandoned and the mill or whatever was here got demolished, and then they built the town, but the tracks still remain and still kind of tell a bit of a story. Something I really like is sort of making each scene tell a bit of a story. I'm a huge fan of like Bob Ross, and I remember him saying that in one of his videos, well, one of his shows when he was doing some painting. He was saying like whenever he makes a painting, he likes to make a story to go with it, and whenever I'm making a scene, I love to sort of follow that philosophy and sort of imagine what the reason I'm creating something is for. The ones in the wood. Like this line over here. That one? Is that what you're talking about? Kind of want to go on Instagram, see if I can find that meme everyone's talking about. See if I've been tagged in anything. Nope, I don't know. Could you run a Norfolk Southern locomotive if you have one or something? Yeah, I've got a Norfolk Southern I could definitely run. I'll use that to swap out the Richard Dreyfuss Hudson. Can you look at what I sent earlier? don't see anything new. Anyways, let me go. I'll see if I can find a Conrail engine, and then I'll see if I can also find a, well, I definitely have a Norfolk Southern. I just need to locate it. I think it's on this shelf somewhere. Well, there's our Conrail engine. I think this one might have had some issues, but we'll try to run that anyhow. Now, as for the Norfolk Sutherland, maybe it's on the other shelf. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not seeing it over here. It must be somewhere else. Where? Doesn't appear to be on the top shelf. I have had this engine in my collection for a long time, so it kind of would make sense for it to be on one of the older shelves, which is this. You see some locomotives featured in previous videos on here. There it is. You have a cotton belt engine. I probably have one of those too. I'll see if I can fetch it quickly here. I think it's over here somewhere. I believe it was, I think it's that one right there. There we go. The Old Bay Rail fan, I'm going to head out for the night because I'm sleep deprived, but it's been a nicer stream. Please, the AC counter. The account for the meme is called the Old Bay Foamer. It's not me, it's just a buddy of mine. All right, well, thank you so much for all the super chats. I'll search that up. Well, I have the name here, otherwise I'm probably gonna forget it. But I'm just curious what it is. The Old Bay. Autocorrect keeps separating Old and Bay, which is annoying. Old Bay Foamer. Uh-oh. Okay, I don't think there's anything unsavory in here, but doing my live stream, and this happened. Oh man. Young SMT, you have so much to learn. Those were the days. Yeah, yeah. Good old days of SMT mainline. All set for takeoff. Yeah, that's true. That started pretty well. One more question. I have a temp Conrail clincher. It will run a few laps and then shut off. What could be the issue? Probably something with the brushes. My guess is maybe as the motor heats up, the springs weaken a little bit and they stop making contact with the motor, because like that's pretty weird for an engine to run right out of the gate and then shut off after a while. So that's where I would probably look for issues, because I can't think of too many other things that would be causing such a thing. If anybody else has any ideas, feel free to throw them in here. SMT, have you ever seen the Northern Lights? I had not up until a couple days ago, and then they were over the Ottawa area, and I saw them for the first time in my life. Boy, oh boy, what a cool thing. Couldn't see them super well in person, but if I got my phone out, I could see them through that, and it was really cool. I've always wanted to see the Northern Lights. Like, yeah, spend 23 years growing up in a cold part of the world, and you hardly ever get to see them, and finally did. I have some friends who live, like 40, 50 minutes outside of the city, and they were sending me pictures. They were even better because they didn't have as much light interfering with the photos. That must have been really something to see. Old Bachmann or Lifelike? I prefer Lifelike. I mean, this is something I was thinking about earlier. I'll try to quickly just do this before I finish off the live stream, but just a little point I want to make about old Bachmann versus Lifelike engines. So, epic brand battle, and these were nearly identical drives. Now, I always talk about how much I like the Lifelike drives more than the Bachmann drives, but the point I want to make is, like, if you compare this Bachmann drive to this Lifelike drive, you can see that Bachmann actually put all metal wheels. Lifelike used plastic on one side. They used nickel silver, which was better than the brass. They had all-wheel contact, so theoretically better, electrical connectivity. So on paper, Bachmann did try to make a better engine. It was not for a lack of trying, but where they really screwed up was the quality of the materials. So even though these two drives are almost identical, this one has way better gears. I haven't seen them crack before. I have seen the ones on these crack many times, so cheap nylon was a problem. And then, the electrical system is okay, but since you've got a traction tire, you really only gain another set. So having those extra contacts actually adds more drag for very little gain. And since this has 4 traction tires, this engine can pull a heck of a lot more than the Bachmann. So, yeah, it's just sort of interesting that, like, Bachmann was aimed in the right direction. If they had just used higher quality components inside it, like Lifelike had, this would be a superior drive. But for those reasons, I prefer Lifelike. I mean, they both were not great, but they were so close, and like they missed the mark by a very, very small margin. And it's like that with every generation of Bachmann. Like, the first gen Bachmanns are actually like a pretty good design. Like, they're all-wheel drive, and they've got 5-pole motors and all-wheel contact. Like, really, really good idea. But again, crappy parts. The motors were cheap and they burned out prematurely. The conditions that they had in the factories were not good for the casting, so a lot of them developed zinc pest, even though they're, in most cases, only like 30 or 40-year-old locomotives. Yeah, it's just like they were so close. If they just put a little bit more money into their parts, they would have had good products. Because, like, I'll show you, like, yeah, so here's a first generation Bachmann, and compared to the later drive, this was a way better design. So you got all metal, it's heavy, 5-pole motor, nice thick gears, but again, cheap motor and really cheap metal. So this one's been okay, but a lot of them will expand and they'll just destroy them. No circuit board. Well, no, this is from the 70s. Like, it looks modern because it was better than that drive, but Bachmann went backwards. So they had a good drive system, and then they went to the Kadar drive, which is what I just showed you. And it's a shame, because even compared to their modern stuff, this, in my opinion, is a better drive in terms of reliability. Like, if you put a good motor in here, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's not the motor, the contacts, the connections are poor. Poor connection causes heat. Connection, like a bad brush spring. Yeah, I have seen that too, where the contacts haven't been making like they're faulty grounded. They really probably should have like had a ground which actually screwed into the frame. But I've seen a lot of these motors also just overheat and burn down and burn out their coils. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is the heat from the contacts damaging the coils, but I've seen that occur a few times before. So yeah, like, you know, these old Atherns, I don't ever remember seeing an Athern motor fail. Like, they're just so tough. I've seen several of those Bachmanns from the 70s fail. Like, I'll have Athern engines that are like from the 50s, and they overheat. They just refuse to burn out. Do you like jazz music with a beat? I do like jazz music. I think in a previous live stream, a lot of people thought I dislike jazz. I don't dislike jazz. The question was whether or not rap. I preferred rap over jazz, and I said I prefer rap, which is true. But yeah, I like jazz music. I've got 3 Bachmann Plus 7 ABs with 5-pole heavyweight Athern Do flywheels, and they are solid pullers with smooth and quiet operation. This is how it should have been the whole time. Yeah, if Bachmann had stuck to that system and improved it, like started using higher quality castings which weren't prone to zinc pest, put decent motors in them, they probably, and made the shells a little more detailed, like they could have owned the industry. Like they would have been light years ahead of what all of the competition was doing. And they could have built up a good reputation, but I think they just thought that the market was, the trend was going to continue to be for just, average families who aren't into model railroading that much. It's going to be kids or people who just want to run a train around the Christmas tree. I think they really thought that was going to be the demographic, and it changed. So I think that might be why Bachmann and Lifelike and Tyco struggled so much. Like, Bachmann's really the only one that actually made it out of that situation and still exists today. Like, Lifelike is basically out of business. Technically, Walters kept them around for a while, but they discontinued the brand, so presumably it wasn't that profitable. And Tyco was gone by the early 90s, so they were out of the running. Model Power closed up in 2014. So as much as I don't like Bachmann, I guess I will give them credit for managing to take a brand which has such a bad reputation and at least get it to a state where it's continuing to exist. I mean, who knows what their numbers are, right? I don't know how profitable Bachmann is or not, but they do have the ability to exist over their competition, I guess. Can you run a chassis system? I'll throw that Bachmann one on there, and then I think call it a night because it's almost 11 o'clock, and I've got to tidy all this up, and I've also got to quiet down so I don't keep everybody upstairs awake. What do I do if my locomotive runs but the gear does not touch it and it moves? Well, I mean, maybe the gear is stripped out, in which case there's not much you can do. But I would just check to make sure the motor is actually secure, because sometimes if they're a little bit off center or they're a little bit loose, they will float over the gear, and the motor will rev and it won't run. No, Bachmann doesn't want to start. Oh, this thing's running like crap. Wow. I don't think he can do it. Better call in the real guts. All right, let's see if I can put my money where my mouth is with Lifelike here. Anyways, I think I'll finish it off there. I'm happy to see that one started. Anyway, yeah, I think I'll finish it off here. Thank you all so much for joining in this evening. As usual, I had a lot of fun chatting with all of you about trains and different things and running different stuff. I really appreciate all your comments and all the super chats there. And yeah, I think we'll call it a night. Have a